Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video we're going to look at the various dogs that appeared in horror movies. As a dog lover and a dog owner myself throughout the years, I'm always drawn to dogs in movies and I'm always hoping that they fare as well as possible. And in horror movies we have not only some dogs that bring the terror, but in a lot of instances we have dogs that really serve their owners and their human companions well, and in a lot of cases are the most intelligent character in the movie. So for this video we're going to look at some of these doggy actors and have a little talk about how they left an impression on the movie and on us as dog lovers ourselves. First up we have Nanook from The Lost Boys. Now Nanook was an Alaskan Mameluke called Cody, which I think is quite cool because you had the two Corys and Cody on that set. And in the movie he is Corey Haim's pet and companion and he follows him everywhere. I really like the relationship that Corey Haim and Nanook have in that film. He's very just sort of roaming around freely, running around with Corey Haim around town. He lies in bed with him, he lies next to the bath while Corey Haim's taking a bath. And of course he's really protective of him. He even fights off the vampires as they're closing on the house, and even kills one of the vampires by pushing him into the bath. So Nanook was a really key character of the movie and it was cool how he stuck up for the guys, and he also brought a bit of humour and a bit of lightheartedness to that film. So I always thought Nanook was one of the best dog characters in horror and one of the most memorable. Next up we have Toby from Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Toby was a really nice border collie whose real name was Ace, which is a cool name. And Toby, he does alright in this movie. He doesn't really have much to do with Jason. Jason never attacks him. He survives the boat trip to New York City. And when they get to the city, he does get separated from the group and you don't see him for a large part of the movie. But at the end, when Jason's being killed and everything's okay, he does get reunited with the group and they're all happy to see him. So Toby does well. He has it pretty easy in this movie, which I'm very happy for. I wouldn't want to have seen Toby get into any bother or been one of Jason's victims. He's actually one of my favourite dogs in movies. I find him very cute and I think he had a lot of character and a lot of charm, and you know, by this time when the Friday the 13th movies were getting quite generic, it was kind of cool to see an awesome dog like Toby running around amongst the characters. So I always really liked Toby and I'm glad he was able to survive the Friday the 13th franchise. Next up we have Lester from Halloween. Now Lester was a German Shepherd dog and I really couldn't find much out about him, so I'm not sure if Lester was his name or not. But watching Lester's scene in Halloween is always a little bit tragic because he's like, again, smart character. He's like the first person that realises that Michael's out there and Michael's posing a threat to people. So of course he does his thing, he's barking at the window, he's growling, only to be told by Nancy Loomis that he's annoying and she lets him out of the house. And of course he does the courageous thing, he confronts Michael Myers. Unfortunately, he does become one of the early victims of the Halloween franchise when Michael Myers strangles him. Now, not to focus on that, but I always kind of wondered how they did that effect, because in the movie you see Lester get picked up and then you see his legs kind of hang down in a lifeless form. And I always wondered how they got a dog to do it. But it turns out they got the dog trainer to pick Lester up and his legs would kind of flop down naturally, and then they slowed it down and slowed that in slow motion, so it appears that his legs are slowly dropping as the life is drained from him. But Lester, I think, doesn't get enough credit. As I say, he was the first person to alert people about Michael Myers and they all ignored him, and look what happened. Next up is Precious from The Silence of the Lambs. Precious was a Bichon Frise dog and she was owned by Buffalo Bill in the movie, and I always thought she was oddly placed in that film. Like, I couldn't imagine a weird serial killer like Buffalo Bill owning a fluffy little dog like Precious. I couldn't imagine him looking after and grooming her and things like that. Clearly he did, because she looked very nice in the movie. But yeah, I just always thought she was an odd accompaniment to Buffalo Bill. But she does great. She's pretty cute in the movie. She does actually have more than one acting credit to her name. She also plays the dog that Walter owns in The Burbs. So if you ever watch Silence of the Lambs and The Burbs, which would be a strange double feature, but if you ever watch them back to back, you can know that the dog in both movies is the same dog. Next up we have Beauty and Beast from The Hills Have Eyes. Beauty and Beast were two German Shepherds. I couldn't find much out about Beauty, but Beast was a dog called Striker, which was a cool name. So they were male and female. Now, unfortunately, Beauty is killed off early in the movie by the cannibal clan, but she is avenged by Beast later on in the movie, in the particular scene where he attacks Michael Berryman. Now, I did hear that that was a difficult scene to film because Beast was actually such a soft dog, they couldn't get him to attack Michael Berryman in any kind of realistic fashion. And what they ended up doing was they would put streaks of bacon round Michael Berryman's neck to at least get Beast into that jugular area, but he was still too tame to actually look aggressive. So I think they meant to come up with they made a dog's head or something, but they had to get around it because Beast was too soft of a dog. But these are two beautiful dogs. It's tragic that Beauty does get killed off, but I do really like the vengeance aspect of Beast coming back and attacking the cannibal clan and helping the family to ultimately triumph over the cannibals. I'm glad at least one dog survived. So yeah, Beast, he was pretty awesome in this movie, and he took it to the cannibals and he avenged Beauty, who unfortunately didn't make this movie. Next up we have Pippet from Jaws. Now Pippet was called Pippet, and he was a black Labrador who was local to the Martha's Vineyard area, and the person in the film that's throwing the stick for him is his real life owner. Now I heard that Pippet was so excitable on set they had to take him away from the beach because he was running around everywhere and getting in the way of the camera, and even the scene where his owner is shouting him, he is taken away and is nowhere to be seen because he would have just ran up to him and started jumping and playing, which is quite sweet. And it's a shame what happens to Pippet. It is insinuated that he is killed by the shark. We see the stick floating on the water. But there is an underground school of thought that says that Pippet lives. We never actually see Pippet get attacked. We just see the stick. And the shark does attack Alex Kidner in the next scene. Now, I'm no expert, but I have read that if sharks have eaten recently, they are less likely to attack someone in the water. So if he had eaten Pippet, why did he attack Alex Kidner? So there is a chance that Pippet lives. In real life, Pippet did pass away in 1978, but he does have a Hollywood star style grave which immortalises him as the star of Jaws. So even if he was killed off in the movie, he still lives on in our memory today. Next up we have Samantha from I Am Legend. Samantha was a German Shepherd dog whose real name was Abby, and she was definitely the best thing about I Am Legend. She was such a nice dog. She brought a charm and character to the movie. She saved Will Smith a few times. I was able to look past the bad CGI and the dull storytelling just because I was so invested in Samantha and seeing her make it through that movie. Spoiler alert, but it was awful what happened to Samantha. She is attacked by the infected and succumbs to the virus, and she really didn't deserve that. She should have made it through the whole film instead of that really crappy death. I was devastated when that happened, and it's one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of I Am Legend, because I don't want to repeat that scene very much. But in real life, Samantha, or Abby, she fared a lot better. She retired not too long after I Am Legend and went up to live on this nice farm in the countryside. Now, up until last year, 2022, she was still alive, and she was 15 years old and still seemingly enjoying her time up on the farm. I hope she's still around. I hope she's still doing okay, and I hope she can look back on I Am Legend with pride. Now, I couldn't do this list without including a couple of the more scarier dogs. And I'd say the ultimate one out of those is Cujo. Now, Cujo was a giant Saint Bernard dog, actually played by 4 different Saint Bernards, and a man in a suit, and a Great Dane in a Saint Bernard suit. I'd love to have seen how that worked. So various dogs contributed to Cujo, and it is an awesome movie. I think it's more than just a killer dog film. There's stuff going on with sort of Dee Wallace and her extreme motherhood survival instincts and what she will go through to protect her son. There's kind of the claustrophobic aspect, but ultimately it's a killer dog attacking this mum and son in a car. And it's pretty scary and pretty intense in places. I don't know what they did to rile the dogs up, but they really look like they're going for it and trying to get into the car and trying to kill Dee Wallace. It's really scary stuff. And there's always that kind of, there's that discussion of whether or not you feel sympathy for Cujo or not, because he was just a regular dog. He's not an evil dog. He got bit by a bat and got rabies and turned into the monster that he was. So, it is that sort of, did you feel sympathy for him or not? I did, because he was a dog, so of course I'm going to. But Cujo is a great movie. It kind of skips the real horror of Saint Bernard, which is the endless amounts of slobber which just get everywhere. Another one I was going to include was Max from Man's Best Friend. Max was a Tibetan Mastiff, and I couldn't find much info out about him actually, so we'll call him Max for the sake of this video. But in this one, it's Ali Sheedy, and she's a reporter who stumbles across this laboratory where they're experimenting on animals, and she manages to infiltrate it and get in there, and she rescues Max from a cage and takes him out and takes him back to the family home. And at first it's kind of okay. He hangs out with his son. He's going around the neighbourhood and seems like a regular dog. But he's been programmed to be like the ultimate killer. And so that starts to manifest itself and gets a bit intense. And then you've also got the guy who engineered him, played by Lance Henriksen. He's going out to try and find him. And eventually they have a showdown at the end. But Man's Best Friend is a really good movie. It's quite underrated, and Max was such a beautiful dog. He was this massive sort of cuddly thing, and he does a great job in the movie as well. Actually, he's very photogenic, like screengenic. He does really well in the scenes, and when he's sort of doing things, he looks like he's doing them with purpose. It doesn't just look like a dog that's sort of been told to jump and so jumps. He really is a good actor, if that's the way to put it. So Man's Best Friend is definitely worth watching, and as I say, Max is an awesome dog. It definitely wanted me having a Tibetan Mastiff after watching this film. And I thought I would end this video with Boomer from Independence Day. Boomer was a Golden Labrador Retriever. He was the family dog for Will Smith and his family. And Boomer was one, I worried about him for the whole film, because obviously everything was being destroyed. And of course, you don't worry about the thousands of humans, you worry about the one dog that's in the movie. And there's the scene where the woman and her kid and Boomer are in the car, and everything's come to a standstill, and everything's being blown up and decimated by the aliens. And the woman grabs the kid and runs away, leaving Boomer in the car, and she's shouting him, but he doesn't seem to be able to get out, and it's like, oh goodness me, this is too much. Anyway, everything's blowing up, and Boomer does manage to get out of the car, and there's the amazingly triumphant scene of Boomer jumping through the explosions and all the devastation and making it to safety in a really kick-ass way. And that to me is how every dog should be portrayed in a movie. So well done, Boomer. So that was a few of the memorable dogs that appeared in horror movies. Let me know what you think about that, guys. Let me know if you like those dogs, and if there's any more dogs in horror movies that I missed, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.